Okay, taking the show on the road here. Sal's house is a part of the NFL Scouting Combine. Going to get my buddy Josh Reed here in a minute. Might have a couple other guests coming by, but lots going on here in Indianapolis for the NFL Scouting Combine. Before we do anything, as always, want to thank my great sponsors who've been a part of Sal's house for a while now. We have Sports City Pizza Pub, and of course, they have the great pizza, the great wings. We've been over there many times.
We have. They're great.
No doubt about it. Make sure you head over to see Sports City Pizza Pub, 1407 Niagara Street. All the wings, pizza, all the games right there. Total Sports Entertainment, TSE Buffalo, TSEBuffalo.com. I know they had a James Cook signing recently, Josh Allen signing, all of your sports cards, or sports collectibles, signings, private signings, public signings, all of it's going on. And of course, Herbal IQ, 6055 Transit Road in Depew, New York State licensed dispensary. Check them out. Their facility is great. They're actually moving across the street as well. And a new sponsor, folks, it's baseball season, 3-2 baseball. The facility is amazing. I mean, these kids, I go over there. I know my son Max practices there. A lot of the travel teams practice there. 3-2 baseball. It's in Tonawanda. It's in Clarence, and it's 3N2Buffalo.com. But man, these facilities are growing and popping up everywhere, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive, and it's great for the kids. And you think back to when we were playing.
Know.
We were that age. We were like, man, that'd been nice to have, wouldn't it?
No doubt. All right. That's baseball. This is football. It's that time of year for the NFL Combine, the Scouting Combine. We're here in Indianapolis. Josh Reed, WIVB TV, Channel 4, joining me. So, Josh, we heard from Sean McDermott. We heard from Brandon Beane, and now we're hearing from some of the prospects. Let's go back and just take from your biggest takeaways from both McDermott and or Beane.
Well, I think it was interesting that both of them were asked about Keon Coleman again, and that's kind of been a big subject and topic, amongst the fan base and the media. And I think Sean McDermott did a nice job. He really didn't pull any punches. He said, look, they need more out of Keon Coleman. I thought Brandon Beane was also pretty upfront and honest about, the contributions that they need from him going into year 2, and they need to see him make that leap. I thought that was really interesting. Of course, the big news was the 4-year contract extension with Khalil Shakir, but then the follow-up to that was immediately James Cook. And, Brandon Beane is never going to negotiate contracts with the media or social media. And so I'm sure that he didn't love the idea that James Cook gets on social media and says, 15 mil, kind of hinting that that's what it's going to take to retain him with the Bills after this next season. He did. Brandon says all the right things, right? He says how much he appreciates James. Same with Sean. But it is kind of interesting that when you hear the other media members around here talk about the running back group, the conversation has changed so much in the past year, because that used to be a group where you talk to other media members and other team, and you just got that sense that you just get anybody in the 5th round. And now the pendulum is it's swinging a little bit to where there's more of an emphasis and value placed on running backs all of a sudden after one really good year of some veteran running backs kind of making a name again for themselves. And you look what Derrick Henry and Josh Jacobs and those guys did.
It's funny too. You're right that, like, the way Brandon talked about it, he even said, I don't love that, I'd rather keep business in-house, is what he said. But, of course, James is a grown man. He said he can handle it any way he wants. What's interesting here is the Bills have not had this contractually, right? So I'm super curious on if this gets any ugly or messy. It doesn't have to. It might not. But it has the potential to do that.
It does, and we haven't seen it. No. We haven't seen them have to deal with it. The closest thing I would say was maybe the Jordan Poyer stuff a couple of years ago, where I think the thought was he was going to – did he hold out of OTAs?
I think he did.
I think that's what he did. And then they resolved it all. I never got – it's two really different circumstances with Jordan Poyer and James Cook. Jordan Poyer had made a good amount of money at that point in his career. James Cook's looking for that first kind of big payday. And the running back position we always talk about, that may be a 5 or 6 year spot, in the NFL. Whereas safeties, you can play 10, 12 years, especially if you're really good. So, it'll be interesting. And plus, when Poyer's situation happened, I feel like everybody kind of looked at it and went, eventually Micah Hyde will go, come on, buddy.
Yeah.
It's time to get back out on the field with me, and let's do this thing. And that is eventually what happened. But, the James Cook thing is really, really interesting. And, rightfully so. He's going to want top dollar. He had a monster season. I keep going back to this, though. He had a great season. That offensive line was terrific. The Bills' offensive line was really, really good. You drafted Ray Davis a year ago, right? This draft class of running backs is very deep, widely considered one of the better ones in the last couple of years. So if the Bills get to the point where they think maybe the James Cook thing isn't going to work out the way they want, maybe they draft a running back, and maybe that puts a little bit of pressure on James Cook to get things resolved.
Yeah, and of course, there's other contracts too that have to be resolved. We know Khalil Shakir got his, James Cook, Greg Rousseau, Terrell Bernard, and Christian Benford all in this boat going into last year. How do you do it? Now, financially, I think Greg Rousseau would be the easiest because maybe you could then say, we'll get cap relief by doing it. You could lower his number. You could extend him. By player, maybe Terrell Bernard is. He's a good middle linebacker. He's not all pro. He's a captain. He wants to be there. Maybe that's an area where you can make it work. I think Christian Benford might be a trickier one.
Yeah, Christian Benford to me is the one that is probably looking at the most amount of money.
Yeah.
I mean, he is one of the top cornerbacks, and he's super young. I just, the way he developed last season, everybody, fans, media, we all looked at the way he grew from 2 seasons ago to this past season and went, wow, like this guy is legit a lockdown corner, one of the best in the NFL. But I want to go back to Terrell Bernard real quick because Sean and Brandon, when asked about the list of guys who are eligible for the contract extensions, they immediately brought up the fact that Bernard's a captain. He's a captain.
One of two.
Exactly. And that's really important to remember. This isn't a team with 8 captains anymore. They've got 2. They've got 2 guys that they trust to be the mouthpiece on both sides of the ball. And I don't think Terrell Bernard, to your point, he's a good linebacker. I think he's ever going to be first team All-Pro. But I also think he's not going to break the bank. I think he's, to me, I look at him as kind of the equivalent of Khalil Shakir on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think they're going to have to pay him what Tremaine Edmonds was looking for. You know, the Bills weren't going to do it. Obviously, we're going to give Tremaine Edmonds that kind of money. So I do think that there's resolution that will come out of the Terrell Bernard thing. Christian Benford, though, that's a tricky one because he's going to need the money and deserves it.
No doubt about it. And then, of course, you could also acquire players via trade. And I asked Brandon Beane yesterday, look, I know you can't talk about specific players. We all know where I'm going, right? Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Micah Parsons. You can't talk about players. But when you hear players are possibly available, what's that process? He's like, I know where you're going. Of course, he said, we'll be in on anything we need to be in. His exact words were, I won't flinch.
Yeah.
Then he said, I'll say what I say when I'm on the golf course. I'm a lot of things. I ain't scared.
Yep.
Scared ain't one of them. That's right.
Scared ain't one of them.
And that was in response to Jace Kursky asking him, would you give up a first-round pick? We know he would. He gave up for Stephon Diggs, no doubt. How aggressive do you think the Bills are about this right now, checking in or maybe even want to be with acquiring a player like that?
Very.
I agree.
I think they're very aggressive because I think they will constantly go back to if 17's at quarterback, they may just be that one player away. And if you can acquire Myles Garrett or Max Crosby or Micah Parsons or name it, fill in the blank of a disruptive force up front immediately, especially after we sat and watched the Super Bowl and what the Eagles were able to do to the Chiefs. And if they look at that blueprint and go, maybe we're just Myles Garrett away. To me, and I've said this from the beginning when kind of when Myles Garrett came out and kind of demanded a trade or, kind of made that very public. If I'm any team, especially the Bills in the position they're in, I'm willing to give up multiple first-round picks. I do it because I know Myles Garrett and what I'm getting, and that is somebody that's not only elite at his position, he is going to make everybody on that defense better immediately, and that's including the secondary. Yep. A lot of the talk is, all right, where do they go at safety now? Well, guess what position group's a little bit better if Myles Garrett or Max Crosby's on the field? The safety group, right? Same with cornerback, same with linebackers. They're all better if they get a guy like that.
It's a really good point. I mean, if you upgrade, then the Bills are going to have to address safety in some capacity. It could be wind up being Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop, but they got to get a little better. If you upgrade safety, you upgrade corner, that doesn't make your pass rush better. No. But if you upgrade your pass rush, it makes your secondary better.
It's a domino effect. Right. It really is. And going back to that Super Bowl, I mean, look, the Eagles have a nice secondary, but let's face it, that defensive front, they put so much pressure on Patrick Mahomes that by the middle of the second half, you could tell that he had that white flag out going. I mean, and that's not something you see from Patrick Mahomes, but yeah, I do. I think that if you can acquire And I'm saying multiple first rounders. And I think that's what it's going to take, because if you're the Cleveland Browns or the Raiders and you're kind of looking at a reset, because that's what that says, you're trading guys like that, you're going to need first round picks. And the other reason I'm not so like, oh, you can't give up first round assets. The Bills are drafting 30th.
Yeah.
That's almost a second round pick.
They do have 2 second rounders this year to sweeten the pot.
I'm giving up. I'm giving up not anything, but close to it if I can get one of those guys.
All right. We also know Sean McDermott and the Buffalo Bills confirmed coaching staff changes while we were here at the NFL Scouting Combine. We had heard that these things were going to happen. Out Matthew Smiley, in Chris Tabor. I was with somebody last night who was raving about Chris Tabor and said, look, I don't even know how this guy wasn't coaching last year, but very good on the Bills. He's very hard to prepare for. I think they hit a home run as far as what you can do with a special teams opening, right? I mean, as far as that goes. And then the other one, of course, is their strength and conditioning coach. And a lot of people have been wondering, Josh, why. And I know that this hurt Sean McDermott to have to let go of Eric Ciano. He's known him for a long time. I think too many people are focusing on the conditioning part, not enough on the strength part. It goes back to the Keon Coleman thing, the Dalton Kincaid thing, the point of attack being stronger. I think that's why the Bills want a different approach there.
Yeah, the Dalton Kincaid thing was one of those comments coming out of the season-ending pressers that we all kind of went, whoa, that was an interesting comment, because both Sean and Brandon said play strength has got to get better with Dalton Kincaid. And to me, that's not an injury-related thing. That's just, I need him to be stronger. I need him to be more of a force on the field. So, somewhere I just feel like maybe there was a pivot in their philosophy on how they wanted to do things. And that's why they went away from Eric Ciano. And so I just think that, and I think it's a good idea. If you're going to do that, go full in on it. Like go all the way in on it. If you're going to make a change, don't kind of sort of make a change. And I also think that they really like Tabor. They obviously really like him and value what he's going to do and to kind of help fix the special teams.
And the experience matters, right? I mean, let's face it, Matthew Smiley and Heath Farwell were first-time coordinators. Chris Tabor comes in with a wealth of experience, 11 years as special teams coordinator. Sean said he followed his career about the same age. They're very aware of each other. Sean's all the tush push is a big,
huge
topic, right? What I find interesting is he's successfully been able to take his mind off being the head coach of the Bills and do it as I'm competition committee guy. What I mean by that is he has the best quarterback for it. They're very successful.
On how much he doesn't like the play, because I think it would have been one thing if he was like, I don't love it. But then he kind of went into, look, I think it puts players at risk for injuries, and I really don't like, I think he said, I don't like the looks of it, that kind of thing. So it was interesting to hear him say that, because the two teams that are the best at in the NFL are probably the Eagles and then the Bills, because for a little bit different reasons. But I mean, when you have Josh Allen and you get down to the 1 yard line on second down, it's pretty much 6 points. So I thought that was really interesting how much he dug into that and said that he doesn't like it. I also thought that it was interesting when Sirianni talked, the Eagles head coach, that he said that he was kind of I'm trying to think of the exact words. I think he was like, I'm kind of not embarrassed. What did he said that he was a little upset that this would even be a talking point. Like, what are we doing? Like, insulted was the word. He's like, I'm a little insulted that this is even a thing, which, look, I mean, right now it's within the bounds of the rules. So now we had this conversation. Is it within the bounds of the?
I think it falls under aiding the runner.
Aiding the runner. It sure looks like that a lot of times. So it's definitely been a hot topic here at the Combine.
Where do you stand on if the touchback should be moved to the 35?
I love it.
You'd like to have that?
I do.
Because I'll tell you, I talked with some people yesterday, and this is something that is going to continue to be discussed, the kickoff touchback moving to the 35. They might not do it, but it's very possible.
Yeah, I love it. I love it because I think that it's going to make teams go, we got to kick this in the field of play. Or the teams are going to start at the 35. And now as good as kickers are anymore, I mean, you're 30 yards from 3 points. 100%. You're 30 yards from 3 points. You just a couple first downs and you're already in that, you see the line on TV where it says field goal range, the point of demarcation type thing. So I really like that. I hope that they do move it to the 35.
Yeah, Josh Reed, WIVB TV, Channel 4. And then the prospects are going today. I know you follow Michigan football. We got a chance to see and hear from Kenneth Grant. I just don't think he'll be once he tests, he's going to rocket up the boards.
Yeah, a lot of these guys do. You know, I'm hoping he doesn't test. Don't just sit out all of them. Yeah. He is just an absolute monster. I think if they ever had a chance, and you know, we've seen Brandon do it before, slide up a few spots to get the guy he wants. I just think putting a guy like that next to Ed Oliver would just be an unbelievable option for the Bills if it's there. There's a couple of defensive tackles, though, from Oregon that I'm just enamored with. One of them is Caldwell. This guy is 345 pounds and is just an absolute monster. And the other defensive tackle is widely considered to be the better prospect. But when you watch them in their games, a lot of times this 340-pound monster is taking on two blockers, and that's allowing Derek Harmon, the higher-rated prospect, to make plays. And I'm watching it, I'm going, well, that's Ed Oliver. And that's Caldwell. I'm watching those two kind of play off of each other, and it's interesting. And I asked a couple of the other Oregon players about Caldwell, and they raved about him as a teammate. They just went like smiles immediately. I say, hey, what kind of teammate is Caldwell? And they were like, just smiled immediately. And, oh, this is the guy. Like, this is the guy you want as your teammate. And I went, that's interesting. So he's a fit. It's also, I asked a couple of the defensive tackles, hey, have you met formally with the Bills? Mm-hmm. And a lot of them said yes. The Bills are doing their due diligence on D-line.
Kenneth Grant is one of them. He did meet with the Bills. I forgot to ask about Von Miller. Yeah. What's your takeaway from what you hear from Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane? They haven't answered directly if he's on the team. They're not going to do that. There's a lot of implications if they want to move on from him, how they do it with the money and the cap and all of that. What do you think happens?
I think we've seen his last game as a Buffalo Bill. I just do. I think that, you know, they're saying all the right things, you know, the idea that he took that pay cut last year and did that for the team. And Brandon brought that up and emphasized that, you know, he wanted to run it back one more time and actually took less money. Brandon said, you never see that in the NFL, especially with a Hall of Famer, like a guy who's going to be in Canton, Ohio. You just never see it. So I think there was a lot of like, kudos to him. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. But at the end of the day, this is a business. And if the business sense of it and side of it goes, you just got to cut ties with it. And I know there's dead cap that comes along with that, but the savings will be there too. And then it frees up some money for you.
All right, buddy. Well, did you enjoy your week in Indy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is always my favorite.
Dinner was always great. We went out the other night. Maybe tonight too. Who knows? I don't know. Don't have any plans yet. We'll have to figure that out. But it's a great city for this, isn't it? That's the other thing. Like, we've been here enough now. Don't move it. No. Don't move the combine, NFL.
Yeah, don't. And that's just not us saying that. I mean, you ask coaches and GMs and media people. I feel like 99% of them say this is the perfect venue for it. This is my 10th combine, actually 9th because of the COVID year. Yep. And every year I come and I go, man, this is just the perfect spot for this event.
Yeah, it's a great event. It's a great spot. It's a great city for restaurants. It's a convention city. This building we're in is massive. Have you walked around this place? Yeah, it's unbelievable.
If you want to get steps in, sure. Yes. The lunchroom that they have here is like 3/4 of a mile away from this main meeting.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. There's like 17 entrances around here. It's great though. It's the perfect spot.
Tell everybody what's going on Channel 4. I know you guys do a lot of combine stuff, Senior Bowl. You get footage. You talk about prospects.
Yeah. So when we get back, 30 days before the first round, we'll start running our prospect previews, and we'll run one player a day leading up to the draft. And it's always a player that we think would fit the Bills or could be a good idea for the Bills and that kind of thing. So yeah, we'll start that 30 days out from day one of the draft, and we'll chug down through those.
And you're going to see me on Buffalo Kickoff Live for draft previews and things like that. We'll be hitting it up again. Yeah. So thanks, buddy. Awesome. I'll let you get back to doing your job over there. You got it. All right. Josh Reed, part of Sal's house here at the NFL Scouting Combine. Once again, I want to thank our sponsors, my sponsors here. If I want to show you right there, how about that? Subscribe to Sal Sports on YouTube. That's where you can find all Sal's house. By the way, sorry about the lighting here. Trying to do the best. I mean, it's not my bald head, I promise. It's literally like kind of how you have to move the camera here. The more higher I go up, you get more lines, more streaks. So I can do a little bit lower there. I can try it, but just haven't been able to figure out the best way. I wanted to give you a good look of what's happening behind me and what's happening around me. And I can walk you around here. Maybe do that and show everybody exactly, how this all works. But Total Sports Entertainment, that's TSE Buffalo, TSEbuffalo.com. Josh needs his phone. Hold on. There you go, buddy. Yeah, we had to use it to prop something up. So TSCBuffalo.com, Total Sports Entertainment, and that's where you can go. It's, obviously online. You can shop and see what they have going on, but also private signings, public signings. They do an amazing job. We have giveaways a lot of times that they're involved with as well. Events, signings, collectibles, TSCBuffalo.com. Check them out. Also, Sports City Pizza Pub, 1407 Niagara Street. Great pizza, great wings, great spot to watch the games. The Sabres are starting to roll a little bit, so that's cool to go in and watch them. Check out all the cool jerseys they have up top and a lot of cool events coming up, and we're going to be doing stuff at Sports City Pizza Pub coming up pretty much over the next few months as well. Herbal IQ, New York State licensed dispensary, 6055 Transit Road in Depew. Check them out. I've gone into their store. It's amazing. It's super fresh and clean and lots of vendors there, and you can check out everything they have. And our newest sponsor joining us on Sales House, 3-2 Buffalo, 3-2 baseball in Buffalo, 3and2buffalo.com is the website that you can go to. Check it out. It's a facility that you can go to in Tonawanda and Clarence. They have tournaments going on. If you're a travel based coach, if you're a youth baseball mom or dad, all right, softball, everything, make sure you check them out. Private lessons, hitting, pitching. They have the hit tracks right there. They have tournaments going on. Check them all out. That's 3and2buffalo.com. All right. Keep checking me out at Sal Sports on YouTube. And, of course, I'll be on WGR Sports Radio 550. Had some plans for a couple other guys to join me, but everybody's busy here at the NFL Combine. But I'm going to try and talk to you again when I get back to Buffalo, do some more wrapping up of this, and we're going to keep this train rolling as we get more into the NFL draft and, of course, free agency, which begins on March 12th at 4 p.m. All right? Thanks a lot for tuning into Sal's House. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Sal Sports. Really appreciate it. Oh, yeah, before I do that, let's wheel around here. I told you I would do that. I'll give you a little sense of how this works. Hold on. All right, here we go. Let me get rid of this little thing there. This is the combine, what it's like on the combine floor. And you can see it in my picture now. Here comes the famous John Harris. There he is. Hey, you want to join me for a minute?
Yeah, man.
All right, see, I was going to wrap up here, but no, I'm glad. I was waiting, and I got a great guy here. I even have a look at that. I even have that for you. A little John Harris right there. All right. Here, switch spots with me in case I have to do this.
Yeah.
All right, John Harris. He is the sideline reporter for the Houston Texans and, of course, Texans radio as well. Great to join. Let's step back a little bit here so our heads aren't chopped off. There, that's right. Yeah, this is what happens when we're doing our own production here on Sal's House.
It's all right.
All right. Houston Texans, obviously a season, really nice season. They get to the AFC divisional round.
Yep.
I thought they played a better game against the Chiefs than the Bills played and had a chance to beat them. But what do they need to do this offseason to make that step?
Well, I mean, they made the first step. Nick Haley being that guy as the offensive coordinator, bring him over from the Rams, pass game coordinator with the Rams, bring him over. He's got Patriots background. He's got Rams background. So he's got a little bit of Belichick, a little bit of McVay. The biggest thing, if you were to ask any fan, and obviously we watch every game, watch every moment, the protection for C.J. Stroud was not good. It just wasn't good all year long. There were games against the Vikings and Packers where the stunts that those teams threw at us, we couldn't pick them up. And we played the Jets, just couldn't block Kinlaw and Williams. They just couldn't block the edges. Hassan Reddick was actually on one that night, the only game he played worth a darn all year. And we just, teams gave us a lot of issue with that. Made some personnel changes, moved some guys around. It got a little better, but it really showed what the impact was on CJ, that pressure that was getting to him. And there were a lot of times in those games where we'd have a left tackle and a left guard blocking nobody. And then the other side has got 5 against 3. And it's like, well, 2 guys are coming through. And it really was a frustrating situation for CJ. Then we lost Steph. Then we lost Tank. And we just lost our weaponry to go along with the fact we weren't protecting CJ. Joe Mixon was carrying us. Nico Collins was carrying us. You guys got a little bit of that flavor when Nico hit the deep ball.
Yep.
On that same play, he hurt his
hamstring.
He's out for 5 weeks. And that really was when we started kind of hitting the skids because Nico's out. Steph goes out 2 weeks later. Now we go to the Detroit game, even though we played unbelievably well that night and get a 23-7 lead. We've got no way to really put pressure on them. Didn't score a point in the second half. They come back and beat us. And that was kind of a turning point because now the offense is kind of like, well, wait a second. No, we got to. And there was a lot of just trying to figure that all out. And so Nick Haley comes in. I don't know personnel-wise what totally they'll be able to do with money under the salary cap. There's a lot of investment already in the offensive line. So maybe with a new offensive line coach, new offensive coordinator, just new eyes, new vision, maybe they can come together and play a little bit better. But that really is the biggest thing. Look, we've got 2 stud edge rushers. Our linebackers play very well together, very fast. They fit D'Amico's system. Our rookies in the secondary played extremely well this year. Kamari Lassiter was a tremendous second-round pick. Kalen Bullock, we got in the 3rd. He had 5 interceptions as a rookie safety. And, of course, I know Patrick Surtain won Defensive Player of the Year. But to me, that was Derek Stingley Jr. I thought Sting was just incredible throughout the year. Tyreek Hill's killed us for years. And Sting just put the clamps on him when Miami came to town in 2 huge man-to-man situations at the end of the game. Sting gets a knockdown and then he gets a pick. I mean, he was just incredible. So we've got those pieces defensively. It's just a matter of offensively. We've got to take it to a different level. And that's going to go a lot on CJ and on this offensive line, whether they can protect him or not.
On that note, update on Tank Dell. Any chance that he's available to play in 2025?
Oh, man, I would love to say yes. Everybody wants to be optimistic, but he had so many things happen that I think it's a real long shot to get him back for 2025. If it is and does happen, it's going to be late. It's going to be December. Now, if he's 100% by December and you can get a couple games out and hopefully you're going to the playoffs, he can help you then, great. But he'll be going into year 3. My guess is that 2025 will be a wash, and fingers crossed that everything goes well. And 2026 will be that time frame. Now, D'Amico Ryans was asked about it, and D'Amico was pretty positive about it. Like, hey, he's doing well. He's doing a lot better than we expected. But you've seen this. Obviously, you were in a totally different situation when you were in Cincinnati that night for DeMar. Completely different. But just the injury situation, when you see something like that, you don't know how to react. You're used to calling the game, and this guy makes this tackle and this guy makes this run, and all of a sudden you've got one of your best players down, and it's so bad that you've got guys crying on the field, and you're like, man, how do you bounce back from that? And I don't know that offensively for the next couple of weeks we did. It took a little while to kind of get that, because CJ and Tank are such good friends. It took a while to kind of get past that. So my guess is it's not going to be until 2026. But knowing Tank, I know he's going to rehab the heck out of it, but Tank's also the guy you want around the building. People in Houston, I've been around Houston for a long time. I don't know that I've seen a player that the Texans fans love more than Tank Dell. And I don't know, maybe it's because he's 5'9", 165. He
goes by the name Tank.
Yeah, he goes by the name Tank. Plays his college ball in Houston, so I know people are, they love him for that. But whenever he does something in the stadium, I mean, it goes berserk. So we'll miss that in 2025, and that really makes wide receiver a big thing we got to be looking for.
I like your point about, the different roles we have, right? We're human beings, but we're trying to perform a job. And at night in Cincinnati and your day there in Kansas City, and you have to be the eyes and ears for everybody.
That's right.
But at the same time, you are a part of what's going on. And it's really tough, but you have to separate yourself. Okay, we just heard from some defensive tackles. I've told you a few times, we've discussed this week. This is the area I think the Bills are concentrating on, defensive line, defensive tackle. So you do a great job covering the draft. You break down these prospects. We just heard, I was in on Kenneth Grant. I haven't listened to a lot of guys. I don't think he's going to be there at 30. This guy is going to be long gone by then. But who might be there at 30? A guy that the Bills could be looking for.
Well, I think there are a couple guys. First of all, when Kenneth Grant tests, he said he was 332 today, and I was like, oh, check that box, because he's been listed as high as 360. And I think when he got to Michigan, he was 360. And that dude's going to test off the charts, and when he does, forget it. We're not touching him at 25. Y'all aren't getting him at 30. That dude might go in the top 15, maybe top 10. But I think Tyleik Williams from Ohio State be a very interesting guy for you guys. I think he'd be a really good fit opposite Ed Oliver. I think he would be a really good fit. The guy that I like that there are 2 guys that I like, but you love the athleticism and you love the way they look. They look like NFL players, but there have just been times in their career where you watch their games and you go, man, is Alfred Collins from Texas or Walter Nolan playing today? Like, are they in the game today? But when it's money time this year, I don't want to call it a contract year, but essentially it was. You're going from that to the NFL. Alfred Collins and Walter Nolan were tremendous. At the Senior Bowl, it was really, really evident how much better Walter Nolan was than anybody that was there. Just the burst off the ball, the explosiveness. He was half a step to a step faster, quicker than everybody. A little bit lighter. He's 285, 290, but he's the kind of guy that can wreck shop inside, one-on-one, strong as an ox. Alfred Collins is maybe not a guy that a lot of people talked about. They think of him more as a second rounder, but he's incredibly talented. And I remember as a freshman, I remember tweeting one night, watching one of his games, like, this dude's going to be a first rounder. And he still might be, but I think there's too much of the disappearing act in, seasons 23 and 20 or 22 and 23 that makes you wonder, okay, is this guy going to be on it all the time? Ed was that kind of guy at Houston. Ed was on it all the time. Like, that dude was a competitor, even with all the other stuff. Ed competed. Like, you never watched a game and went, hey, Ed's invisible. No, he played. And I think you get that from Tyreek Williams. Like, Tyreek's going to show up all the time. Alfred and Walter might be a little bit more athletically gifted, a little bit smaller, but dang, they're athletically gifted. And that you keep going back to that. And there's going to be a scout in the room that says, hey, Sean, you can coach him up. We got a good locker room. Let's take one of these talented dudes and let's get Ed, let's get, Russo, let's get these other defensive linemen that have really been indoctrinated into the way we do things as Bills, and we can help that guy get to his max ceiling. You put Walter Nolan next to Ed Oliver on a pass rush situation, it's over. Yeah. Like, shut it down. I mean, that's going to be as tough to stop as anything.
So since you're talking about wide receiver and you've done work on him, because the Texans are maybe in that boat, the Bills might be as well. They did take Keon Coleman with the first pick of the second round last year. We know that. Bills are always looking for speed. We know they traded away the pick that went with Worthy last year, but Brandon Beane says, I'm always looking for speed, but they got to be a football player first. His exact quote was, football isn't played on a track.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right.
Sean McDermott said, yes, I love speed, but let's remember, I want to about stretching the field vertically and horizontally. Yeah. What names come to mind that could be a guy like that in this draft?
Okay, I'll ask you this. Do you like Tank Dell?
Love Tank Dell.
Okay, I'll give you Tank Dell 2.0.
Okay.
Like an inch, maybe inch and a half taller, but about the same size, about 165. That's Tez Johnson from Oregon. When you watch him on film, you're just, boy, he's got easy speed. Like, we had Will Fuller with us from 2016 to 2020. Will had this ability to just pull away from guys so easily. Tez does it a little bit differently, but he's got that type of speed. And we were at the Senior Bowl. Azariah Thomas, a corner from Florida State, was in one-on-one coverage. They called everybody together. They did some one-on-ones at the end. Everybody real competitive offense, defense. And so Tez kind of does a little bit of a hot foot release. Azariah's kind of backing up. And then Tez starts his route. He gets Thomas to turn within 5 yards, and then he just kind of toys with him. He just kind of gets in his blind spot. And Thomas is like, where is he? Where is he? And finally, Thomas just bails left. Tez goes right, wide open. Catch. I mean, it's like one-on-one's easy. So you want easy offense. You want down the field. I think Tez Johnson gives that to you. But you get him ball in space. Like, he is excellent after the catch. And we talk about this in Houston a lot. D'Amico talks about this a lot, getting separation. Yeah. Like, there's a difference. Like, college separation is from me to that banner over there. Pro separation can be between me and you. And I think he's got pretty good hands for a guy. And that's what Tank has. Tank has really good hands for a smaller guy. But Tez can create some situations that Khalil maybe can't, that even Keon can't.
Right.
I think he can kind of be that deeper intermediate route where I think Josh can make money. I mean, like, he can zip that throw, even though it's a 20-yard, 30-yard throw. That's where Tez can get to, and maybe Khalil doesn't get there, maybe not as fast. But, and you know how much I love Khalil, and I'm glad he's going to be back with the Bills. But I think Tez Johnson gives them a little bit different vibe. If they're looking for, maybe another slot, and one of the guys I love in the slot, you maybe get a little bit later, is a guy from Iowa State named Jalen Doyle. I love him. He's the kind of guy, it's sudden start stop. And you just think about when you watch guys in the NFL, how fast they're moving. And then when they go to stop, it's like it takes them a while. This guy is stop, start, turn, go, separate. Great hands. He played with Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. Those two are a great combination. So I even think Higgins, could be one of those guys you guys would look at. He's got some downfield speed, not as big as Keon, great hands, excellent route runners. So those two guys from Iowa State, I think, could end up making a nice fit. But I think Tez Johnson, Jalen Noel, kind of, I'll say slot types, but a little smaller guys that can do a lot of different things in the field.
Thanks a lot for coming over, buddy.
Yeah,
I
man.
appreciate it. I
All
know
right,
you
man.
got a lot of things going on,
All right,
so I'll let you go do it. John Harris right there, the sideline reporter for the Houston Texans, also Houston Texans radio. So how about that? We had Josh Reed. I didn't know we were going to have John Harris come over. I thought it could happen, but it was. That's why I had his name right there, and now I have for you to subscribe to Sal Sports on YouTube. Once again, want to thank Sports City Pizza Pub, 1407 Niagara Street, Herbal IQ, and of course, Sports City Pizza Pub, everywhere you need any game you want to watch, whatever. It's now baseball coming up, hockey, football, basketball. It's all right there. They have all the great pizza, all the great wings as well. Herbal IQ, 6055 Transit Road in Depew, New York State licensed dispensary. And of course, TSE Buffalo, events, signings, collectibles. Check them out at tsebuffalo.com. Lots of great events going on. They've had, whether it's Bills or Sabres or Bandits, anything. I mean, they have everything you need for collectibles and signings, private signings, public signings as well. And of course, 3-2 Buffalo, 3N2, the letter N, buffalo.com, training facility, practice facility, all of you youth baseball players, youth baseball coaches, softball players, make sure you check them out. 3-2 Buffalo, Ron Pilot, his entire staff, they're doing a great job. They have facilities in Tonawanda and in Clarence. And of course, they're helping to make you a better ball player. Thanks a lot for, once again, watching this edition of Sal's House here on YouTube. And of course, at Sal Sports on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe.